allegedly. It's just the word allegedly. It's what I heard allegedly. It's on the street allegedly. I sing to the beat allegedly. 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 It's what I heard allegedly. It's just the word allegedly. Don't blame, don't sue allegedly. It won't help you allegedly. 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 Bitch, one of you was flat. Was it me? Was it me? So before we get to the Housewives of New York City, not New York, it is New York, because they are boring. We need to talk about somebody else boring. Sanya Ross Richardson and Marlo have the nerve, the gall, the gumption, the audacity to come at us with a podcast titled, and I quote, The Real Friends Podcast. The Real Friends, with real in the same Real Housewives font. I'm never going to deny anyone their microphone or their podcast, to be honest. But I feel both of you have missed your mark. One, you've come to us with a pathetic, with a weak, with an impotent, with a tired, with a trifling, with a joke of a lie. A lie. You two aren't real friends. You ain't known each other long enough to be real friends. You haven't. You haven't. So, y'all is friends for the cast. And the truth is, both y'all got booted off the show. So now you on the flow trying to scrap something up. Marlo, why didn't you do a podcast about your fashions? You are always talking about your fashions, about your label, about your Le Archive. Why isn't Le Archive the podcast? Why don't you, Fashion File, talk about it? You've been in finery and furs all your life. You've had 50 years of furs and finery. Why don't you? That was honestly, that's what we would believe you about, Marlo. This Real Friends, it's starting off on a lie. I don't think you're Sanya's friend. Now, you're not Phaedra Parks, so I don't think she's your enemy. But this is too convenient. Y'all both, get kicked off the show, and now you all of a sudden just best of buddies. No, y'all ain't got no day jobs. And you want a day? Me say day. Did it come? You don't want to go home. The tax man come. He took last year's earnings. Did it come? You don't want to go home. It's 1 bill, 2 bill, the mortgage is due. Did it come and you want to go home? Marlo said she was building a new house. Did it come and you want to go home? Where's that house? Unless you address where that house is, because you had Bob the Builder on there and everything. Was that Sheree's old contractor when she was renovating her dirt and grass? Was it? I'd love to know. But I want to know why Marlo isn't doing a fashion podcast and saying you're not doing a fitness. You are a 4-time or 3-time, I don't know, you got more medals than me. A gold medalist. You can't teach us how to get out here and stick and move. You can't get with Michelle Obama and do a Move Your Body podcast. Marlo Slash 'em up Hampton. That's who you gonna work with. All right. I wish you well, but I ain't gonna waste a good wish on you. Oh, great. We have Panagria in the chat. What are your thoughts on this podcast? Do you think it's desperate or smart?
It's absolutely desperate. Hey, Alex, by the way, good evening. But it is desperate because let's just going off of what you mentioned about Marlo. Marlo doesn't have any taste, and you've seen that throughout the different seasons that she's been a part of. Yeah, she has access to a lot of fashionable pieces, but she doesn't know how to pair it together. Her idea of fashion is to throw on a whole bunch of, I guess, luxurious items, but it doesn't quite come across as if as somebody that's stylish. It just doesn't translate the way that she thinks it does. And it's laughable that throughout the years, she's the first person to look at somebody and insult them or embarrass them because of the whatever outfits they have on, but she hasn't looked good in years. Not to the state that she believes that she's at.
I want to testify to that. I was at BravoCon and saw the heifer in her tired little Fendi coat, and it looked inauthentic. I saw weak seams, and I know Fendi. I lived in New York. I would go to the Fendi store just to window shop now, just to window shop. Fendi was never really my thing, but they would have
Mhm.
some cute things from time to time. And it just didn't look like the same fabric I would see in the store. It looked cheap. It looked
Yep,
swap meet. It
yep.
looked flea market. It looked Atlanta.
And
It gave a Fulton County fold.
absolutely. And anybody who's into fashion has been saying this for years, how the fashion throughout the years has become very fast. The seams are weak, the girls don't know how to sew really well. Even if you go to thrift stores, it, the material is not up to par. When you look at somebody like Marlo, she is a perfect example of that. She,
Ooh.
I mean,
Now,
she just doesn't know how to,
oh, I'm sorry, go on.
huh?
Oh, I'm sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying that I have a colleague that I work with every day. I am in awe of how she puts pieces together, and I can tell you off the top of my head that a lot of them might not be Gucci or uh, Oscar de la Renta or anything like that, but she comes across as classy. It's clean, it's crisp. It's just something about the way that she puts her outfits together that's just chef's kiss.
And Marlo does not do that. I would also say when we talk about a fashion plate, we've seen Erica Jane really knock it out of the park with her looks. And Erica loves to also do the label and the high fashion. I mean, it was with stolen money, but those were authentic runway pieces, and I think Marlo was getting some stuff imported.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It gave inauthentic.
And that
And
is the
then
reason. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go, please go.
Oh, and then Sanya, like you are a fitness guru, like you would know how to train. You do stuff with Sports Center. You do stuff with Nike. Why wouldn't you do a fitness podcast? Why wouldn't you do an eating podcast? Like you've literally lived it at the Olympian level. If there's anyone to listen to who's also learned from the best of the best in the world, you are a wealth of knowledge. Like that is what you should be doing. Like I get that you were a housewife. It did not work, boo. You're not unlikable though. Like you didn't leave like Marlo, throw them kids out Hampton.
Mm-hmm.
Throw them
Yep.
kids out. And how we gonna listen to, and then oh God, when Cynthia on the other yawn of a podcast, Cynthia and Crystal, the other rejects. I
Yeah.
guess it's
So
rejects are getting deals before the holidays.
exactly. I mean, when it comes to Sanya, she is unfortunately quite forgettable to me. Um, she just really is. I honestly believe that just like you mentioned, if she were to do a podcast that's you know geared towards sports, geared towards, I don't know, I guess eating right, or geared towards fitness, I think it would work with her brand and it will further elevate it. But the mere fact that she's doing this thing, this new podcast, is just with, I guess, Marlo or whatever, it just doesn't make any sense. They don't they don't bounce off each other in a way that draws you in.
Oh my God. So you saw the little trailer for it too.
I did.
And didn't it look like it was so incredibly inauthentic? Why were they playing with each other's feet?
Ugh.
When she picked Marlo up, when she picked Marlo's foot up and was playing with them toes, I was like, oh, y'all are really trying to sell us on this friendship. I'm sorry. I have never played with my friend's feet.
And perhaps the issue is that they're just not equally yoked. Maybe Marlo were to do a podcast with, I don't know. I think if she were to do a podcast with Candy, it would be interesting. At least it will draw me in. It will be interesting to see them go back and forth. They can't keep it clean because Marlo will always Marlo. But it would be quite interesting to see these two individuals try to one up each other.
That's a point. That is a point. Now, I would say Sanya she should have called me. Dr. Heavenly called me.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. got on the line, and we've been enjoying working together ever since. Sanya also should have picked up the phone. I have time slots free because we would have looked at the Housewives from a sports standpoint. We would have talked about plays, and we would have made it hilarious.
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think that it would have worked simply because Sanya is just not an interesting individual. Like if you look at a lot of these housewives that have come through, you have your Kim Fields, you have your Eva Marcel, you have, oh, what's that girl's name from Black? She was interesting. I just don't remember.
Shamari.
Yeah, Shamari. We have Shamari. When I think of them, I know something about them that draws me in. When I think of Sanya, unfortunately, even though she was on there, 2 seasons? Okay, girl. Sure.
And if Kim Fields did a podcast, I would want to hear her talk about acting.
Yes.
And production and directing, all things theater. I want to hear, like, you've done it all. You've produced for Disney, you've directed for Disney. We're going to talk about that too. I know about your behind the scenes work, but we're also going to talk about your on camera because you were on camera from duty. So you are an authority and a rich source. Your mother was one of the first Black women behind the scenes. We're going to talk about that too. So that's a series within itself.
And listen, if she were to do it with her husband too, oh, it would be amazing.
And I think that's the difference between and why I'm so kind of confused with this podcast, because this is a woman who is an Olympian, a gold medalist at that, got a couple of them just hanging about. Why, did you forget who you were before you became a housewife? I know, the Pink Toes, they have no claim to fame before they were housewives. Teddy Mellencamp, she just has daddy's money.
Yep.
Tamra, she just has, her promise of her soul to the devil. Vicky, she has the wisdom of a crone. But that's not really anything tangible. Well, I guess Vicky does use that to her crone wisdom to sell her insurance. I'll give her that. I will give a crone her due. But Cynthia, you also could talk about I feel like pairing you with Crystal is dumbing you down when you really could talk about what the modeling world was like in the 90s as an actual model. And then because you have 11 seasons as a reality star, and now you're moving into acting, you have a wealth to talk about Housewives where it's let's pair you with an equal. Maybe not Candy, but what not Bethany, because Bethany's evil. But another woman that was on the show for a long time, that it's like, okay, you're you got a decade in, you're seasoned, you were there damn near since inception, so you can talk about the change, about the rise of social media, about the rise in salary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the problem is that they're not honestly thinking about how to create a brand that lasts. And they're just going off of, oh, this person has a podcast. This other person has a podcast. Why can I have a podcast? And then they don't last. They just
Now,
don't.
now I do wonder when we're going to start seeing these podcasts stop filming. Now, Garcelle had one, and that came and went like a fart. And I was sad because I think it was In Bed with Garcelle.
Mhm.
And I was sad because I was actually interested in like her, soft after dark conversations. I was like, okay, this is, a little love, a little relationship, like from such a beautiful woman. I want to hear it. And it's like, we know you also have some stories to tell. So I felt like, and she can get great guests. I was sad that that did not take off. And maybe it was because like people were like, we want you to talk about Housewives.
Ugh.
Now, I will also say though, now somebody just asked, who's throwing money at these housewives and why for the podcast? And I'm going to explain it. It's because now the women will go on the show and they'll use it on the show as a plot line. It's a controlled fourth wall because you've got other, girls on, with Bravo ties that, they can reach, that production can reach out to them very easily and say, hey, we want them to be interviewed. The season's coming up. We need it to happen by this time. They will scramble and fit it in. So it's kind of, you've got guaranteed good guests, guaranteed tentpole episodes because of the franchise. So that's who's throwing money at it and why. Because now they know, okay, when our season comes on, we'll have all the girls on. We'll have we could have 2 or 3 moments on the show as a plot line. And that keeps people listening to us and keeps the ad dollars rolling in. And then maybe we could come back as a friend of it. It puts them in a way. I can see almost Bravo being the mastermind behind all of it because it keeps their talent still kind of working, where it's like, okay, you're still getting checks, even though it's not directly from us, but also relevant. So you never know when you could get a call for a little episode arc, because they're all not just addicted to the money, but the fame. They want to be in the camera's face.
I never saw it that way.
I mean, when you see what some of these women of means, women where it's whipped that you ain't got to get up and do shit for the rest of your natural life. I want you, let's close our eyes, unless you're driving.
Oh.
This is a silly show, but some of you are. And imagine, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is stay black and die. Oh, what a thought. Oh, what a thought. And they want to get their ass up and get in front of that camera. Dorinda Medley, perfect example.
Yeah.
Like, these are also like, these are women that have been on the show for years, where it's like, Dorinda was fine when she got on the show. She wasn't broke. She wasn't broke. She was broke. She would have sold Bluestone Manor, called it a damn day. Now, I will say they do have a high living expense, but they ain't broke. You get on a show like this, even if you were like, okay, let me pad the retirement. You didn't, like, the first couple seasons, you ain't making that much money. But once you get to your 7th, you're making bank. And then also all your other opportunities, all your other gigs, you're getting $10,000 hosting gigs like that. You're making a lot of extra money. You can put that away and not have to work. Like, you see some of the girls that get off the show, like, they really ain't been back. Like, they might have an Instagram, but they're not trying to be famous. But then you see the ones where it's like, you have money. Like, You see the broke ones too.
Yep.
But the ones that have money, they're like, no, I want that camera. I want the camera. I need people to know what I think.
Hmm. You know what will be really really interesting, and I don't know. You probably know the name of it. But remember how VH1 used to have those random programs about the lives of the rich and the famous? It would be interesting if they would do something like that for the ones that have the money.
That would be Vanderpump. That would be Dubrow. That would be Burris. That would be no one from New Jersey. Well, I mean, I like, yeah, I don't, nobody from Potomac. Well, Stacy might have a few dollars. Stacy might have a few dollars. Kira might have a few dollars.
Hmm.
A few. I did you get a chance to get a glimpse of Cynthia and Crystal's podcast, and do you expect anything from them?
No, I haven't. I did not get a chance to watch it at all. Um, Am I interested in watching it? No, not really. It doesn't really draw me in. Um, maybe if Cynthia was paired with somebody else, but I don't really know too much about Crystal because I never watched Beverly Hills. I'm gonna be completely honest. I only, for the most part, watch Potomac, Atlanta, sometimes New Jersey, but I stopped years ago because it was the mess didn't make any sense, and I was just getting lost in all of the random ass storylines and plots. So I was just like, yeah, I'm good on that. So yeah, I've mostly stuck to Atlanta in Potomac.
Are you going to peep this new season of New York?
I might, I might, I might. They look a little bit interesting, and I really like Jenna.
Okay.
Yeah.
We it's been, it's early in the season yet. I
Hmm.
think this is episode 5 tonight. So
Hmm.
I'll definitely be doing a live chat after that. I hope that they give us something this evening. It's interesting to see a reboot cast because all, like, I will say I listened to Cynthia and Crystal's podcast, and Cynthia was able to say, like, they can reboot, but you can't restart
True.
because now these girls are hyper aware of the
Yep.
camera. You have a social media that you did not have when the show started. Like, girls were writing blogs.
Yep.
Twitter was still called Twitter, and it was there, but it was like, it was a cute chat. Now it's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's lives, it's so much more. It's TikTok.
Yep.
And it's so much more like, there wasn't BravoCon then. It wasn't the ecosphere that it
Hmm.
is now. It wasn't the economy that it is now.
Yep.
And so there's so much more at stake. It's like, it was a show that was on Bravo that, like, a couple of people got, a couple of people didn't even get Bravo. A lot of people
Yeah.
get cable, didn't carry it. And
That's
now
true.
it's a worldwide show available on all streaming platforms. They've got it now on Hey You, where we're really pushing y'all international. So that's going to change the stakes. That's going to change who's selected for the show. That's going to change who wants to be on the show and what they're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
Because, the pay is still low for the first couple of seasons. And I think too, Bravo, it's like, the show is a juggernaut. Stop trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. Don't Tyler Perry. Invest in your
Yeah.
talent.
And I think one of the other things that I worry about is the fact that the type of people that they have on these shows, whether or not they're interesting and whether or not they draw you in. You were absolutely right in that they're all too hyper aware. I tend to sometimes I watch previous seasons because I loved how raw and how uncut and how natural they were. They weren't thinking about how to make a brand out of everything. They were just really, really natural. And I miss that in reality TV. Now everybody's aware and everybody's doing everything for clout. Everybody's, if they fought in back in the day, it was because they were really upset. Now it's just like, okay, I'm gonna fight on Monday, and then you're gonna hit me on Tuesday, and then you're gonna punch me on Wednesday. Are you serious right now? Like, what? If I want to do all that, want to see all that, I'll just watch a movie. And they're just they're not meshing as well. It's forced. It's just yeah.
And they're going to have to figure out, but I will say Salt Lake City is still able to bring it.
Okay.
So I think that, yeah, Salt Lake City, if you ain't watching it, you might want to tune in. Mary is activated. It's a good season. It's a good season. I haven't had a filler episode yet.
Okay.
But I think with all of them, they're going to have to incorporate people like me, and they kind of have.
Yeah.
But it's like the fourth wall is already broken because the blogs are now a part of it. Twitter is a part of it, and your popularity is a part of it, because if you're not likable, you're off the show.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Talking to you, Tamara Judge.
I think the era of the villain might be down. You look at somebody like Kenya, and I'm gonna leave it at that. You look at somebody like Giselle, and this 180-degree change that she had to make. Once her buddy Robin wasn't on there, they have to pivot now, because they now have to become likable, because it's not enough to just be one, to fit one archetype. You have to be able to come across several types of people in order to sell this brand that you have, whatever that brand may be.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's okay to incorporate likability in this. And I think you're right. The era of the villain is over. And it gets boring. Now, we love authentic conflict and take sides with, okay, you should have done this, you shouldn't have done that. And, it's cool to go over these moments. But if you're like Tamara or like Ken, you're just going to go after and go after and go after, where that's your personality, because you don't want to share your personal life because you don't have one, or because you're dating somebody and they may not want to be on TV. And that, like, I could totally understand that, where they just are like, hey, I don't want any parts of that. And it doesn't mean they're cheating. It just means they may not want any parts of that.
Yeah, that's true.
But then you want to get in somebody else's relationship.
Yeah. That, especially with Kenya, seeing that complete shift that she went through once she married Mark, it was amazing to watch on real time. How, even when Portia was married, you went out of your way to insult that relationship. And regardless of whether or not the relationship was valid or whatever, you still should have respected it. But every time she saw Portia, she would throw in her little digs. Now, what is it? 7, 8 seasons later, once she's married, she's now in the same boat as Portia, with a man that doesn't want you, doesn't really want to be around you, treats you like
garbage,
trash. And I can't help but feel like she deserved it.
Or like you were calling your karma to you. And it was, especially like before you get married, maybe you shouldn't have spoken on that marriage. And then, ooh, Lord, that piece of a man. I wouldn't have brought him on. I wouldn't have told nobody. I would have told somebody I slipped and fell on the dick. I don't know whose it was. I wouldn't have told nobody I was married to that. I wouldn't let you embarrass me like that. Ain't no way in hell. Oh Lord, I will that's one thing. I will never let a man embarrass me. You, oh Lord. I will never have and never will. Thank God it's never come to that. But oh no.
Well, that's what happens. That's what happens when you rush into
one.
marriage. When you're so pressed to be with somebody that you ignore all of the red flags.
All of the pussy.
All of them. That's exactly what happens.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me for this chat about their interesting concept. And I'm going to give the first episode a listen, but now it's time for Housewives of New York. So let me get on over there and I will see y'all soon.
Have a good one.